Alright, let's talk about helicopters. These amazing machines can hover, fly sideways, backwards, things a regular airplane just dreams about, but none of that fancy flying happens by magic. It happens because of a complex system of controls worked by a pilot who hopefully knows exactly what they're doing. These controls are the unsung heroes of helicopter flight. They're the direct line between the pilot's brain and the powerful forces keeping that multi-ton machine hanging in the air. Without them working perfectly, a helicopter isn't much more than a very expensive, very complicated paperweight, and a dangerous one at that. Think about it. You're sitting in a chair, hundreds or thousands of feet above the ground, with a giant fan spinning like crazy just above your head. The only things keeping you from an unscheduled rapid descent are these control systems and the pilot's skill in using them. They translate tiny movements of the pilot's hands and feet into precise adjustments of the rotor blades. It's an intricate dance of mechanics and aerodynamics. The control systems are what allow the pilot to perform this constant balancing act. First up, let's talk about the cylic stick. This usually sits between the pilot's legs or sometimes to the side, and it's pretty much the helicopter's steering wheel but way more sensitive. When the pilot pushes the cylic forward, the helicopter tilts forward and moves forward. Push it left, the helicopter banks and moves left. Simple in concept, but the mechanics behind it are pure genius. The cylic changes the pitch of the main rotor blades individually, at specific points in their rotation. This tilts the entire rotor disc, which is the big spinning thing on top, in the direction the pilot wants to go. It's a delicate dance of angles and aerodynamics. Now imagine that cylic control decides to go on strike. If it jams, the pilot might be stuck flying in one direction, or worse, in a continuous turn or dive. That's a bad day at the office. If a control rod breaks or a hydraulic line bursts, the pilot could lose the ability to make those fine adjustments. Trying to land a machine that isn't listening to you is a nightmare scenario. It's like trying to steer a runaway bull with a piece of string. Next on our list is the collective lever, or just the collective. This control is usually found to the pilot's left side and moves up and down. Pulling up on the collective increases the pitch angle of all the main rotor blades simultaneously and equally. This increases the overall lift generated by the rotor system, making the helicopter climb. Pushing it down does the opposite, decreasing lift and allowing the helicopter to descend. The pilot also uses the collective, in conjunction with the throttle, often integrated into the collective grip, to maintain a hover. It's the primary control for altitude. A loss of collective control means the pilot can't manage the helicopter's altitude effectively. Section 4. The anti-torque pedals, keeping the tail from wagging the dog. Finally, we have the anti-torque pedals, or just pedals. These are foot-operated controls, much like the rudder pedals in an airplane. Their main job is to control the pitch of the tail rotor blades. The tail rotor pushes air sideways, creating a thrust that counteracts this torque, keeping the helicopter pointing straight. The pedals allow the pilot to adjust this tail rotor thrust. If the anti-torque system fails, things get exciting in a very bad way. The most common result is an uncontrolled yaw, meaning the helicopter starts spinning. At high power, like during a takeoff or a hover, a complete loss of tail rotor control can lead to a violent, disorienting spin that can be almost impossible to recover from. The helicopter essentially becomes a very heavy, very dangerous top. Section 5. When controls go rogue. The scary realities. When any of these critical flight controls decide to stop cooperating, the consequences can range from mildly terrifying to utterly catastrophic. The most immediate and obvious outcome is a loss of control, or LOC as the aviation folks call it. This isn't just a minor inconvenience, it means the pilot can no longer dictate the helicopter's attitude, altitude, or direction of flight. The machine is essentially flying itself, and helicopters are not known for their ability to do that safely without a guiding hand. This can lead to unpredictable movements, stalls, spins, or dives, often leaving the pilot struggling to regain command against overwhelming aerodynamic forces or mechanical failures. Beyond just losing control of where you're going, control system failures can lead to serious structural damage to the helicopter itself. The human cost of these failures is, tragically, often the highest price paid. Fatalities are a grim reality when helicopter control systems fail catastrophically. Section 6 behind the breakdown, why good controls go bad. So why do these meticulously engineered control systems sometimes fail? Well, it's rarely one single simple reason. Often it's a chain of events. Mechanical failures are a big one. We're talking about metal fatigue in a control rod, a bearing seizing up in the swash plate assembly, a hydraulic pump giving out, or a cable snapping. These are machines after all, and machines wear out or break, especially when they're subjected to constant vibration, stress, and varying temperatures. Even the best designed parts have a finite lifespan, and sometimes they fail prematurely despite everyone's best efforts. Then there are maintenance errors. This is a tough one because the folks who maintain these aircraft are usually highly skilled and dedicated. But humans make mistakes. Maybe a bolt wasn't torqued to the correct specification, a critical component wasn't inspected thoroughly enough, or a part was reinstalled incorrectly after service. These aren't necessarily acts of negligence, but small oversights in a complex maintenance procedure can have massive consequences down the line. Pilot error can also be a contributing factor, though it's often linked to how a pilot responds to an initial mechanical failure rather than causing the failure itself. Section 7. Staying aloft safely, the 3 pillars of prevention. Given the high stakes, how do we try to keep these control system failures from happening, or at least manage the risk? It really boils down to 3 crucial pillars: rigorous pilot training, meticulous maintenance, and well-rehearsed emergency procedures. These aren't just buzzwords, they are the bedrock of helicopter safety. Without all 3 firing on all cylinders, the risk of something going terribly wrong with the controls or anything else increases dramatically. Pilot training is absolutely critical. Pilots spend countless hours in simulators and actual aircraft practicing how to handle all sorts of emergencies, including various control failures. They learn to recognize the subtle signs that something is amiss, like a change in control feel, an unusual vibration, or an unexpected noise. They drill procedures for tail rotor failure, hydraulic failure, jammed controls, you name it. The goal is to make the correct response almost instinctive, because when things go south in a helicopter, you don't have a lot of time to consult the manual. This training builds muscle memory and mental preparedness. Regular, thorough inspections are key. Technicians follow detailed schedules, checking everything from the integrity of control rods and cables to the fluid levels in hydraulic systems.